I just did a little brainstorm like, well, I better do this now because when I'm live, I'm going to not come up with all of these.
Yeah, and we're live right now. Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Two
We're
teachers.
live.
We're going on and on about testing and all the
Oh,
wonderful
man.
nightmares that we have endured at school.
Can I just say, I don't feel it's right that this is Teacher Appreciation Week, but it's also standardized testing. Like, why?
Oh,
Isn't that
wow.
a
It is
way to
teacher appreciation.
appreciate
You
me?
mentioned that. Now, does your school do all these wonderful things for you? Something each day?
Yes, and this year they were sort of seemed to be on the ball, and so
Oh,
I felt
good.
kind of bad because they brought and they know I'm carnivore and they know my teacher partner is keto,
Oh,
and I
good.
didn't realize it, but they tried to like accommodate for us.
That's
So on
nice.
Monday when they brought breakfast, they made me and her chorizo and eggs, which I totally would have eaten, but I didn't know it was there because they just called it a
Oh,
continental
yeah,
breakfast.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then today they were bringing in like Hawaiian barbecue. So I didn't even look. I just like brought my meat. And then they were like, we
Yeah.
got you plain beef with no sauce. And then I felt really bad because they're like, you didn't eat, you know? They
Oh,
tried their
well, that's
best. They
nice.
so
They try to,
it was very
that is
kind.
nice. That's good.
Yeah, it was very nice of them.
Wow. And it coincided with testing. Now, that never happened to us. Oof.
Uh, just why?
Yeah.
So, anyways, we won't need to discuss the joys
No,
of
we
testing,
won't.
but welcome, Cami. Cami's here, so thank you for joining us, and also Darth Carnivores of us.
Thank you,
And
Darth.
happy Teacher Appreciation Week. So, thank you,
Yeah.
Charlie. Appreciate that. So I think what we wanted to talk about tonight was a lot of myths.
Yeah.
Myths out there, and you kind of brainstormed a list, and this first one just took me right back to the 1990s because dietary fat makes you fat, and dietary fat goes right to your fat cells. Boy, did I buy into that one, hook, line, and sinker.
As did I, and so do many today still, because
So,
I've talked with people and they believe it. Like they believe it, like they believe that the sky is blue and the earth is round. I mean, it's a learned fact, and that's why we call them myths. They need to be broken because they're just totally not true.
yeah. So I think the only time when dietary fat can be bad is if it's mixed with a bunch of processed carbs, right? Because that combo is what is bad.
It is.
When you get the carbs out of there, then the fat actually fuels your body and you can run on that fat, and that's what you're using for energy.
Exactly. When we're fat adapted or keto adapted, our body generates ketones from the fatty acids. Fat is energy and fat is nutrition. And our vitamins A, D, E, and K require dietary fat to be absorbed into the body. I mean, our lipid system, our cholesterol system, there's so many things that are just dependent on our intake of healthy fats. Now, we can break that down into the unhealthy fats too, because we don't want people to say, oh, I have to get all the fat I can now. Just breaking these myths. And then there's the seed oils that we have to say, you don't want that kind of fat, but that's what everyone's using now.
Yes.
To cook their eggs in and to fry things and make things and French fries. And that's poisonous. So when we say healthy fats, we're talking about the healthy fats, the animal-based fats, which are butter, right?
Yes. My personal favorite.
I think everybody's personal.
I love butter.
Yeah, beef tallow,
Beef tallow
bacon grease, bacon fat, so delicious. Duck fat, chicken fat, pig lard is the healthy saturated fat, and definitely stay away from the canola, the corn, the cottonseed, soybean.
And I didn't know how bad that stuff was for you. I remember my mom telling me because she bought into all that, the 80s and 90s and probably for her the 70s when that stuff started coming in. And so I remember her saying she repeated the myth, right? Or as Dr. Berry says, the echo of the lie, right?
Yeah.
That because saturated fat is solid at room temperature, and the canola oil is liquid, that's better for you. That saturated fat's going to clog your arteries because it's solid.
That was what we thought. If it's solid there, it's going to be solid in here and give us a heart attack. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then we just believed it.
Right. And I mean, yeah. And so, she bought I remember her buying, Crisco or generic Crisco. I remember the canola oil, the vegetable oil, for 100% sure.
Margarine.
Margarine.
We
Oh
stopped
yeah.
the butter. My mother, Parquet, remember the
Yeah.
commercial Parquet? The little lid would come up and
Parfait.
talk.
Yeah, and it would talk. Although we had country crock at my
Country
house.
crock, we had that
Yeah.
too. And I
Mhm.
remember we would go to my grandmother house in Philadelphia, and she was, they were born in the late 1800s, and they never switched over. And I was like,
Yes.
butter. And
Yeah.
I thought, how much better this tastes. I was a little kid. I knew better in my gut
It
instinct.
tasted better, but I can remember trying to avoid it. So my grandparents never switched
Oh, they
either.
did. Yeah. Yeah.
No, my grandmother especially, she grew up on a dairy farm for
Oh,
goodness sakes.
yeah.
But she, yes, butter, and they just like kept it out. They had it in one of those, butter containers,
Last, yeah. Yeah.
and just on the counter.
On the counter.
And I remember watching them eat it thinking, that's so bad for you, right? Like in my head, of course, I
Right.
wouldn't call my grandparents out like that, but oh my gosh, that was so good for them. Little did I know. And the sprays too. Did you used to use
Oh,
like,
well, I use Pam all the time,
yes,
which if you
all
look at
the
what
time.
Pam is, it's soybean oil
Yeah,
or canola oil. And
yeah,
it's so convenient. And we got in the habit of using it for everything. So,
everything.
we need to break the habit of using these seed oils, which unfortunately are in everything that's out there that's processed food, that's standard American diet food or standard European food, wherever you live.
Yeah,
And it's in all the fast food. And if you go back to just making the meats and using the animal fats that come with the meats, you can avoid all of that. But a lot of people, they go through the drive-through, through the fast food. They're going through the shopping. They're pushing the cart in the center of the aisles, and they're picking the TV dinners, the macaroni and cheese. They're
yeah,
eating, all that stuff that has the seed oil. So back to the myth. The myth
yeah,
that we were talking about is that fat, dietary fat, and we're talking about the fat that comes with the animal meat, like butter, beef tallow, bacon, is healthy for us. It does not become the fat in our body. So what makes the fat in our body is the question. If we're going to break
Mhm.
this myth, we have to say, what's the fat? And
Yeah,
you and I know,
yep,
and it's sugar. The liver does this. One of the 80 jobs that the liver does. It does de novo lipogenesis. It
yes,
creates fat from all this extra carbs that turn into sugar, and then it
yes,
deposits it on our organs and around our body. That makes the fat. The fat we eat doesn't become the fat we eat, slips right through us.
yes.
Right? That's actually a great way. If you're constipated, add more dietary fat and it will help you not be constipated anymore. Doesn't become the fat on our body.
Yeah.
So break
When
myth number one.
Yeah, when you eat that sugar or those carbs, which just turn into sugar, right? I was teaching my students that today. They were reading the label and trying to figure out how much sugar was in that breakfast that the school was feeding them. And I told them, if where you see carbohydrates, that's just going to be basically sugar. Your body can't store that stuff. Your liver can only store a very small amount as glycogen, and so it's got to do something with it. And so John's
Absolutely.
absolutely right. De novo lipogenesis, turning that sugar right into fat so that it can store that away.
For future, our human species we evolved to store that for a
Yeah.
future famine, because we would feed off of that fat as energy. Fat is energy. And so we're walking around our carcass. We walk around with all this energy, potential energy that we can access at any time. If we don't eat for 20 days, we have all this fuel on our body. And that's what our body does when we eat all this extra sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ray Lang is saying, how do doctors not know? I mean, they can read, they are intelligent and educated. It's surprising that nutrition isn't a thing with doctors. And I think some doctors, like my doctor, I think they think that they do know. Because, my doctor flat out told me that this diet was going to be bad for me. By this diet, I think when I went to see her, I had gone carnivore, but we had talked about keto, and then I was carnivore. She had never seen a carnivore before. She didn't know people were doing that.
Wow.
She definitely said she had I think 2 patients before me that were keto and that their cholesterol went up, and therefore this was a bad dietary choice. But, she was willing to wait for the blood test to come back.
Oh, at least she was a little
But
open-minded for that, at least.
yeah, but then it turned out I was a lean mass hyper responder, and I was like,
So she was.
why?
Yeah.
So she just went, I mean, she flipped out when
Holistic.
she
You
saw
need statins.
stat, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think she thinks that she did know. But what she told me was, she looked me right in my two eyes and told me that, well, I don't know why you're saying your inflammation is down. Keto is not an uninflammatory diet. I think that's the main thing that it is, right?
Well, when we're in a ketogenic state, because that's another thing, a lot of people think keto is a diet or it's a food. It's a state that we put our body into where we're not feeding ourselves a lot of carbs and sugar. So we start generating fatty acid or ketones from the fatty acids. That's a ketogenic state. And when we're in ketosis, it's very non-inflammatory. It's very uninflammatory because what causes inflammation is grains, it's legumes, it's carbohydrates and sugar, it's glyphosate, it's seed oils, all the stuff that's in the standard American diet stimulates inappropriate inflammation. You know, we all get different kinds of inflammation, sometimes appropriate times for appropriate reasons, but we don't have that inappropriate inflammation from the standard American diet foods when you're eating ketogenically. And when you're doing ketogenically, you are eating vegetables, you're eating some fruits, you're eating some nuts and seeds. Mm-hmm. So it's on the spectrum of getting better in health. You and I are carnivore, which is the other end of the ketogenic. It's eliminating even more inflammatory foods. You know, plants can cause inflammation because of the anti-nutrients. Yeah. So yeah, it's not good. And carbohydrates are a long string of glucose molecules, and then when they hit that enzyme in our mouth and in our stomach, it breaks the bonds and it turns right into glucose, which is the form of sugar that our body sees and our pancreas responds to.
So this is Ray's follow-up. P.S. Do you think olive oil is hyped or hyped to a degree?
It's hyped.
I think it's hyped.
Yeah.
I think it's hyped. I think like people that don't know better cook with it. And then that can cause, it has a very low, smoke point. And so it's not the best thing to be cooking with.
Right.
Also, it's been shown that a lot of them are adulterated with seed oils, canola oils and things like that. And so how do you know? How can you possibly know?
That is the problem. And if you look in the grocery store, and my God, they have so many olive oils. Anything in a plastic bottle, throw it out. Don't look at that. Anything in a clear bottle, whether glass or plastic, light heat and time can denature a fragile oil like olive oil. And then, if it's cheap in price, it's probably adulterated. They added canola oil to it so they can rake up their profits. So really good olive oil, if you want to do olive oils in a dark glass bottle with a harvest date, not a sell-by date. When did they harvest the olives? No more than 3 years ago, the date. And you want a single sourced olive, so it comes from one country. And that's going to cost $15 to $25 for a little bottle. Yeah. You probably assured that's going to be good olive oil. And then don't overheat it in the pan because it gets, with heat, it breaks. It's unsaturated, which means it's missing hydrogen. It's not saturated with hydrogen all around the molecule, so it breaks. And then it becomes massively inflammatory to the body. So I used to do olive oil. I would finish stuff with olive oil when I was doing keto. I would never cook with it. I'd finish with it, the expensive stuff. And it was delicious and I liked it. And I don't use it anymore because I'm a carnivore. Yeah.
Yeah. Same with me. And I like Jay's advice. Just stick to beef tallow.
Yep. And butter.
Love it. And butter. Yeah. 100%.
Bacon fat. Yep.
Okay, so another myth, it kind of goes along with the first myth, and that's, and with what I said about being a lean mass hyper responder, but lower LDL, like under 100, is healthy and will lower arterial damage.
That myth is just Everybody believes it everywhere. I was at the dentist
Mhm.
office a couple of weeks ago, and it was in a questionnaire, and I had to answer if I had high cholesterol. I'm a lean mass hyperresponder as well.
Oh,
My
I didn't know
cholesterol,
that about you.
yeah,
Okay.
I am, and it's if I answered yes, I have high cholesterol. Very vague too, not what kind of cholesterol they were
Mm,
asking.
mm.
What would that have meant? Am I at risk in the dentist chair? Are they not going to have me as a patient because I have high cholesterol?
So what did
I
you
don't like that.
do?
Yeah. So it's on a lot of questionnaires as a health problem. If you have high cholesterol, well, are you on a statin? You're
Mm,
not. Not good. It's almost it's a question, and the myth is just rampant out there that that your cholesterol has to be low, and then that does not cause arterial problems. And I did a whole video recently. I did a whole bunch of videos on cholesterol. If anybody wants to look at my videos on YouTube, Carnivore Teacher. Um, to put it in a nutshell, cholesterol makes our bile, which breaks our fat down. Cholesterol makes vitamin D3, which we need. Cholesterol is responsible for the insulation around our spinal cord, our myelin sheaths.
mhm,
Cholesterol makes my testosterone and a little bit of estrogen, and your estrogen a little bit. I mean, so many things. When we
mhm.
lower our cholesterol down to below 100 because the doctor said so, then we're robbing our body of all of that wonderful stuff that it's doing to us. And, if I'm damaging my artery by eating chronic excessive carbohydrates and sugar, if I'm damaging my artery walls, whatever cholesterol I have, whether it's 85 or 285, my body's going to find it and use it to make a plaque to fix the damage that I did by eating sugar. So the plaques are not caused by the cholesterol, they're caused by the sugar. And
Yes.
yes, cholesterol is part of the repair process. But,
So the other thing I wanted to point out too is that LDL is responsible for carrying around a lot of those fat soluble vitamins that you were just talking about a few minutes ago. So if you're lowering the number of LDL particles, you basically have less delivery trucks in
that's
your
a good
bloodstream,
analogy. Yes.
to be dropping off all of the things that it's carrying around. Things that are fat soluble cannot just go into your bloodstream because that's water based. It's got to be carried in some kind of carrier, which that's
Right.
what LDL is.
Yes.
And so I like the way Dr. Westman says it because he's like, high cholesterol is not a disease. Like, that's not the disease. So
Yeah.
why are you taking a statin to treat a disease you don't have? Like, that is not the disease. And so, yeah, that hits home. I've heard him say that multiple times. It hits home every time because I feel like because they have a drug for it to lower it, they treat it like a disease. Like, that's a disease because we have a drug to fix you. And
Right.
so we're going to call it that, or treat it as such. And then you can just take this medicine and get it down low.
And I don't know about you, but I know so many people. I was on a statin in my
Really?
I'm 58 now. And when I was in my
Yeah.
30s, I was
Hmm.
on a statin because the doctor told me I had to be on it. My cholesterol was over 100. It was like 150, 160 back then, right? Eating
Ooh.
all the carbs and sugar. And so I was on it, and I remember I felt like an old man. I felt
Mm,
achy, and I felt like I had
mm,
bursitis. And
yeah.
when Google was kind of young back then, I Googled statins and realized I'm doing this to myself by taking this drug. I took myself off of it and told my doctor I'm not taking it anymore.
Mm.
Simvastatin and lovastatin was what I was on, and the aches and pains went away. And so
Wow.
my gut instinct was right. And now I've learned so much about statins, and I'm like,
Done. So what
done.
was your doctor's response when you said, I don't want to be on this anymore? Did
He
they
just
agree with you?
disagreed, and but I'm the boss.
Right, right.
I said
I was
I
just
refuse
curious.
to take it. He says, okay, I have to write this in your chart that you refused, and I offered. And to this day, now my doctor's really supportive, and he's lean and fit and healthy, and he's seen me. I've had him for over 10 years. So over the
Okay.
10 years, all my blood work, everything, he has seen me become healthier and younger looking and fit, and my blood markers are better than they've ever been, except for LDL cholesterol.
That pesky
So, right.
LDL.
And
Mhm.
which as we know from so many wonderful doctors online, that's a sign that my body is healthy. It's protecting me. It's protective. I just heard somebody say recently that if you just fasted for 3 days and did a cholesterol test, your cholesterol goes way up because you're not giving yourself carbohydrates and sugar or protein. And then when you start eating again, it comes down a little bit. If you eat carbs and sugar, it goes way down. You know, the Oreo cookie study.
Right.
It's really interesting. So he still had to mark it down. He had to mark it down. I'm going to offer you the statin, and I have to write down that you rejected it. Every year he has to say that. And he's okay with that as long as he tells me he has to. I think he gets audited, and he could get fined or something if he doesn't. If they audit him and see that my cholesterol is close to 300 and he did not offer a statin, that he could get in trouble. So he offers, I refuse. It's in my records. So I'm totally fine with that. The more I learn about this, the more comfortable and confident I am that I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I've never felt better, you know, so.
Same. So Charlie is saying my latest labs had 2 things flagged as high, LDL and testosterone.
Hey, don't fight the testosterone level. And LDL, that there's the 2 good things, that your LDL is making your testosterone.
That's right.
Yeah. So let's see what else we have here. LDL, arterial. All right. So I explained how LDL, it's not the cause, it's the fireman. The fireman puts out the fire, but he wasn't there and he didn't start the fire. Sugar glycates the endothelial cells in our arteries and causes the damage. And then the firemen go in there to repair the. So, you know, part of the myth is true that cholesterol is responsible for making a plaque, but it didn't cause the damage. And nobody tells you that part of the story.
Well, and it's only partially responsible. If you listen to, I think is it, gosh, what's his name? Kendrick, last name Kendrick, talking about the blood, the clotting theory, right? There's cholesterol in there, but also talking about clotting.
Calcium.
You know, I mean, go watch, I think it's Malcolm.
Malcolm Kendrick.
Yeah. Go watch that guy talk, because it's such an interesting theory, you know, that he has in it, because just the, you know, the plaque itself is not just all cholesterol.
Right. It's mostly calcium, actually. That's why they do a C. Have you had a CAC score test?
No, and I probably should try to get that done. It's what the deal is my doctor wants me to have my bloods tested again. I didn't go. So we're just kind of in this stalemate. I didn't ask for a CAC. I want to change doctors, and I just haven't done it. Yes, thank you, Charlie. The clot thickens. Yeah, the clot thickens.
That's the name of it. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Absolutely.
So what about this meat rots in your intestines and colon business?
Have you heard that? I've heard it too. I was threatened with that. Oh, it rots down there. Rots. You know, they use the word rot. They don't say ferment. Seriously? You know, anything we eat goes through a fermentation in our intestines, because that's what our intestines do. I mean, but it all comes out. What does rot in our guts, Christy? What rots?
Well, what rots in there is all of the like bread type of stuff, you know, all of the carby things like that will definitely rot. And people that eat that are going to have some serious stinky gas and things like that as that process is going on. As a carnivore, I have the least gas I've ever had in my life. It rarely happens anymut
And it doesn't because the fermentation, the gas, it's not plant matter. And it's which is grains, and it's legumes, and it's nuts, and it's seeds, and they all ferment, and in a different way. They make the sugary part, and then it feeds your sugar-loving gut bacteria too that you have, and that's why people have trouble, you know, getting off of sugar, because their body wants it, their body expects it, and then they have problems going to the bathroom because they deny their body all those carbs
Yeah.
and sugar. And that's,
Yeah.
so a lot of people call that the keto flu and stuff.
And there's people like my friend Lee Copus. Have you spoken to Lee? His channel's Kent Carnivore. You might have seen him.
No, I haven't heard of that one.
He just had another surgery, so he had to have his bowel removed, and he totally blames the standard. He's from the UK, so the standard Western diet, if you will, because they kept telling him you got to eat fiber, and he did everything the doctor said. It got worse and worse. Anyway, so he has this colostomy bag, so he sees what comes out, and when he first got his colostomy bag, he was like, it was full of gas all the time.
Oh my gosh.
I had to change it. I didn't want to leave my house because this thing would just fill up, and I was not predictable, and changing it is a whole thing, as I'm sure you can imagine. So he just was like stuck, and he was depressed, and then he went carnivore. He was like, he changes it. I can't, it's been a while since I've interviewed him. I think like every 2 to 3 days.
I'm wondering if I heard this guy, because somebody talks about a story just like this. I wonder if I think I've heard the story secondhand from Dr. Barry or somebody.
Yeah. So go check him out. His channel is Kent Carnivore, but his name is Lee. People call him Kent because of his, but he lives in Kent.
That makes it easy to remember. Okay.
Yeah, but his name is Lee. And so he has a great channel, but he just had like a follow-up surgery. So he's been posting about that recently. It was something they told him he was going to have done.
Wow. Did they say what did you say, or did they say what caused it? Just the standard Western diet caused?
He attributes it to that. So what's the condition? Like
is it colitis? Is
like
it
colitis, ulcerative colitis? Yeah.
Oh
and he just got worse and worse. Like he was to the point
Crohn's disease, maybe
running to the bathroom like 20 times a day.
Oh, poor
and then
guy.
he had this severe attack.
Yeah.
And then he went to the hospital, and they're like, nope. Like they tried to give him some medicine, and it didn't work.
They had to remove it. Wow. Probably so much damage to it.
And he's young. He's very young. Like it's sad.
Wow.
But anyway, he's totally happy being a carnivore. He has all this energy. Like I said, he has a great channel, but I mean, that's proof right there. The stuff isn't rotting. There's hardly any. He's
proof. You could see it in his colostomy bag, every particle. And from what I've learned, all the plants and the nuts and the fruits, the plants, the nuts and the seeds, the exact way that you chew them, and it goes down your throat, it comes out in the same shape.
Yes.
Versus
he used to see like pieces of corn and stuff.
Right. Versus meat. Meat gets emulsified, liquefied, and absorbed, and whatever's left, it's like soft serve ice cream. It comes out probably very easy for him.
Yes, absolutely. So I don't think it's rotting at all. I think it's our body's absorbing most of what we're eating.
Absolutely.
Because it's just super bioavailable nutrition for us. This is a good one. I hear this one all the time. Fiber is essential to have proper bowel movements, and just fiber is essential. Like that, people have told me that, not even for the bowel movement reasons. They just think that fiber is, they will call it a nutrient.
Listen to the commercials. It's all over television. It's everywhere.
My dad used to take Metamucil.
Right.
Like for extra fiber.
Yeah.
You just got to have it. I remember him doing that when I was a kid.
And to break the myth, fiber is basically sawdust. It's cellulose. It contains no protein. It contains no fatty acids. It has no vitamins. It has no minerals. Those are the 4 essentials we have to have. And it's just bulk. Mm-hmm. And so when people are eating plant matter, all plants are fibrous, everything, it goes through the body and comes out. And your body tries to absorb the protein, fat, vitamins, and minerals. Mm-hmm. And the rest is just the fiber. So you're just having the larger bowel movements. The fiber ferments, like what we talked about before. It causes gas. And then a lot of people believe that it's essential for healthy, good gut bacteria, which is another myth that a lot of people will argue with me about. Because your body adjusts. When you just eat carnivore foods, your microbiome, your gut microbiome adjusts to the way you're eating, and those bacteria are being nourished. You have a balance of good and bad, and you want the good a little bit higher, and it adjusts. But when you have fiber, you're feeding it different stuff that generates different bacteria, and sometimes the bad overpowers the good, and there's where the gas and the bloating. and the bowel problems come from. So
Yeah.
break that myth too. Fiber is not essential at all, but
And
people hang on to it for dear life.
oh yeah. I mean, my mother-in-law was asking me all kinds of questions one time about this way of eating. And she was asking me questions and I was answering them. We were talking for hours, but then at the end she was like, but we need fiber though. she couldn't really even tell me why. It's just such an entrenched position, right? It's just so part of what people believe.
And older people, like when my parents were alive, they don't listen to us younger people because they know it all. They've lived longer and they think their wisdom supersedes the things you've learned. And there's a pride thing there. Like you can't tell them some people are teachable, but some people are closed-minded. And I know it's fiber, and I know about rotting in the gut, and I know about cholesterol, and some people just won't. They're not teachable.
Yeah.
They don't.
My husband's uncle just explained the entire, well, what happens is, and then you eat these fatty foods and then it builds up in your arteries and then that's cholesterol and then you have a heart attack. And he just explained it like,
real
and
quick.
I was like, I just didn't say anything. I was like, oh, that's what happens. But it's so simplified, right? It's like this simplified kind of dumbed down.
Well, some people need that. Yeah.
Told, but yeah, he was explaining it like as if he was giving my husband and I this, revelation. And I'm sure in his head, my husband was like, Christy, be quiet. Just don't say it.
Don't interrupt.
Just leave
don't give
alone.
the teacher lingo. Yeah.
He knew I wanted to say something. I didn't. I let it go.
All right.
Cami would like to know what we think about this. Do we need to eat fermented foods for our gut bacteria?
Good question. What are your thoughts?
So I don't know if we need to because I don't. I mean, N equals 1. Mm-hmm. I'm not against it. I do like kimchi, and I've looked a couple of times for a clean one, to see if I could find it without sugar, because a lot of them are made with sugar.
Right.
I found one and it was too expensive, so I didn't buy it. So I've been carnivore for almost a year. I have not eaten any vegetables except for I think I had a little bit of avocado one time, in the whole year, and that's not fermented. So, and I don't have any gut issues to speak of. Now, I'm just one person and it's only been a year. I know there are some doctors like Dr. Sean O'Mara, who is carnivore, and he will add fermented foods. And I know Dr. Barry suggests if you're going to eat fermented foods, like take a couple bites and chew them up like with the meat. If you're doing that, to like eat it with it. Do we need it? I don't feel like I need it. I feel like I might enjoy it. I feel like I'm not necessarily against it. I wouldn't eat a whole jar if I was gonna, like, I would do it like maybe a bite, with my meat if I was going to do that. And I think fermenting the vegetables does take out a lot of the anti-nutrient, properties that they have. And I think that's why people fermented things in the first place. Right.
Agreed.
To get rid of some of that stuff.
Yeah. You learned what I learned. N equals 1. I and many, many other carnivores, we don't have fermented foods and we're doing well. Now, I have learned that if you have to be on a course of antibiotics are just known for destroying your good gut bacteria. It's actually advised to actually have some kefir, which is like a yogurt, or kimchi or fermented things, so that you can help to rebuild and reestablish the good gut bacteria. So I would probably use it as a tool if I had to be on an antibiotic. But I don't like sauerkraut. I don't like kimchi. I love yogurt and I love kefir too much. That
a little carby. It's a little carby.
It's too much. Like I'm an addict when it comes to things I love, and I can't just have a little bit like I'm supposed to. So I just don't do it. But I did hear from Dr. Anthony Chafee too. I think, was it him or was it Dr. Barry? Maybe it was Barry, to have a little bit with the meat, so it's being eaten at the same time, not to eat it just alone. So I kind of learned what you learned about that. So proceed with whatever knowledge you have on fermented foods. I've heard that they're okay as long as they
Yeah.
don't have a lot of sugar. To ferment foods, they need sugar though a lot of times.
Yeah, there are
fermentation
some
to take
that
place.
don't have it, but then those are like the expensive ones. If you look at almost all the kimchis, they have some sugar. My grandfather, he was I have to say, he's my step grandfather. He's my mom's stepdad, because no one believes me if I just say my grandfather was Korean. They're like, no, he wasn't. I'm like, he was though. But it was my mom's stepdad. And anyways, we ate kimchi, growing up because he was Korean, and so he brought a lot of those foods with him. I wish I had known, because it was just like in a jar. Like, I don't know who made it, because it didn't have a label that I recall. It was like in a mason jar. So I don't know.
Homemade. He had it in his backyard for a couple decades.
It was good. That's what I know. It was good.
All right.
And so I don't know if there was sugar in there or not, but that's how I got to liking kimchi. Right. So Charlie brings up, he's been a little bit funny, but he brings up a good point about the veins. So the body has a lot of, pipes, and never clear on why dietary saturated fat wouldn't also clog our throats and veins.
There you go.
The veins don't get the clots, only the arteries. And did you know, I was listening to Dr. Malcolm Kendrick, I think it was him, talking about if they have to replace, because sometimes they'll take a vein and turn it into an artery because the artery is,
bypass,
clogged, and then that vein will get clogged. Like as soon as you turn a vein surgically into an artery, it gets clogged, and it's because of the pressure, like the higher pressure that the arteries are under. I think he said, I want to say, whereas veins have less of that.
Right, and the capillaries in the veins are small. They're not that enormous. Our blood pressure in and out of our heart is 120/80 or whatever, and it's not that way in the little arteries in our going all the way up to our head and everything. It's a different blood pressure there, but it kind of makes sense. It does.
So Sandra's saying that she's got 1 kilogram of Greek yogurt in the fridge and can eat it all at once. It torments me until it's all eaten and it's not there anymore. Yeah, it's pretty carby. Yeah. I buy Greek yogurt for my son, my son that went keto. And especially because he just had to have that toenail removed, and they put him on antibiotics so that it wouldn't get.
Okay, yeah, give him some ferment.
He stubbed his toe like super hard, and the toenail got all impacted, and it wasn't growing.
Well, they had to take it off.
Yes, and so they put him on antibiotics, and so I've been making sure that he's good. But I mean, I have to make him eat. Like, he likes it, and he actually did ask me for a yogurt substitute, but it'll sit in there. He won't eat it for days. Like, he doesn't have that I'm addicted to it thing. Like, if he wants it, he eats it. But yeah, now I'm like, come on, you've been on these antibiotics. Let's eat some yogurt, kid. So anyway, but yeah, if I ate that yogurt, it's too many carbs for me.
Yeah, it is for me too, and I love it.
Yeah. So how about this one? Salt causes high blood pressure. I don't know a lot about it other than eat your salt, eat salt to taste. That's kind of what I've learned, and that it can kind of go the other way, that if you don't have enough salt, it can cause you problems.
We have an electrolyte system in our body. We have a whole electrical system, and sodium is one of the main electrolytes. We have to have salt. Every cell in our body is a sodium potassium pump, and we have to have sodium and potassium. If you're not getting enough salt in the foods you eat or salting your foods, your body tries to equalize, and it can, and it will pull salt out of areas to equalize it, because that's what the body does. It always tries to equalize it, but you have to have salt. Too much salt, and what happens? You pee it out. So you can't have too much salt, except when you do have familial high blood pressure. It's genetic. You have high blood pressure not caused by any other reason. And then if you have too much salt, it will raise that blood pressure even higher. So that's where the concept came in. So, too much salt will raise your blood pressure. Well, it's true, but in that context.
Okay.
For people that don't have high blood pressure, salt is essential, and it doesn't really raise the blood pressure. Salt, like you said, we learned this. We salt to taste. A signal is sent to our brain. If it tastes good, that means our body needs it and wants it. Yeah. If we salt a little bit of our steak and it's too salty, that's a signal that was sent to our brain saying the body has enough of that salt. And again, you can't over salt. You'll just urinate it out.
I find myself, I mean, I've always put salt on my steak, even before because I love steak. I've always loved steak. But now I really put salt on my steak. Like, I feel like because I hardly use any other seasonings. I still sometimes will
Right.
do like the Redmond seasoned salt when I do like a chuck roast or a pork shoulder, because those are my son's two favorites, and he likes the seasoned salt.
Mhm.
And I don't make him, he's not as strict as I am. He's keto. But
How
I
old's your
eat
son?
too. He's 15.
15. All right.
Yeah,
Good
he's
for
15.
him. Good.
He's metabolically healthy. He's actually,
Great.
quite thin. So I'm not worried about that kind of thing. It was for ADHD. So
Mhm.
for him, it's just trying to get the fat in there, take out the processed food, take out the food dyes, that kind of thing. So you could call him keto, you could call him ketovore, because the only fruit or veggie he really eats is a little bit of tomato sauce, like on his pizza pockets that I'll do with the cheese, pepperoni,
It's not bad.
sausage, and a
A
little
little
bit of
bit.
tomato sauce. That's it. Everything else, all his other carbs come from dairy. So he does do cheese, he does do some whole milk, and he does do the Greek whole yogurt.
Okay.
So any carbs he gets comes from that. Otherwise, and then what I'm finding is the longer he's in it, like a couple days, I was like, do you want pizza pockets or picanha? The boy chose picanha.
Good for him. Good.
I'm
Good
like,
mama, you raised him right.
that wouldn't have happened like in the first month, right? But now he's in
Yeah.
the third month,
It's
and it's
interesting.
like,
The body knows what it wants,
yes,
and the
yes,
cravings, there's those junk
yes,
food cravings
yes.
disappear. And there's pockets. It's not just wheat flour and water. You read that ingredients in those.
Oh, you can't even
It's
read the chemicals.
Oh
It's
my God, the preservatives, the additives, the colors, the
yes,
flavorings. They have seed oil. They
yes.
added sugar. It's awful.
Oh, yes. So, I mean, we made it. So, when he first started, we did a lot of replacement food. So, his pizza pockets now are just 2 slices of mozzarella cheese. So, it's
Mm,
just wrapped in cheese with
yeah.
like meat and a little bit of that sauce in the middle.
Oh, you're making
And
me hungry. That sounds very Italian.
yes, he can make them himself, which is
Uh-huh.
something I like. So, if like tonight I'm doing this, and so he just got home, and so that's probably what he'll go make himself.
Mhm.
But we did a lot of that, and then I started making like my own like I'll make chicken nuggets, so he doesn't have the breaded ones, and it doesn't have the seed oils and all the added stuff in there. But the more he gets into it, the more, like he really likes chuck roast, and he
Good.
really likes pork shoulder. So he'll choose those things, or chicken thighs, over even the substitute. He still does the substitute foods, but yeah, he just likes it more and more. So anyways, I got off on a tangent, but that was to
That's
say
what we do as teachers.
that's what we do. So, so I mostly just use salt. Like if I was cooking it just for me, it would just be salt, because I'm cooking the chuck roast and the pork shoulder. I eat as well, but it's for him,
Uh-huh.
and so I
got
do
you.
use the Redmond seasoned salt, which has some garlic and onion powder and things
Like
in it.
you, I don't use pepper anymore.
No,
And
I
I
don't
don't
use
use
any
any, I
pepper.
don't use any spices or salts or seasonings anymore. So it's just salt
So
and
yeah,
butter.
so I find
Butter and
myself
salt.
more heavily salting than I,
And egg yolks,
ever
I will
have.
break a raw egg yolk or almost cooked, little tiny heated egg yolk as a
Yeah.
sauce on my meat.
Oh
That's so
yeah.
good. Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
Oh, I do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't gotten into taking because I'll do that. I'll do like an over easy egg,
Mhm.
but I haven't I probably will start. I feel like I'm going to start soon, like taking out some of the whites, and doing more yolks than whole eggs.
That's
But
what I
as
do. Yeah.
I haven't done that. But yeah, I love a good gooey egg yolk as a sauce because it's delicious.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have any problem with salt, and my son, I think, likes things just as salty as I do, because usually I'll try to make things a little less salty, like especially if I think my husband's going to want some,
Mhm.
and I'll just add extra salt to mine, because otherwise it's too salty.
Right. And the reason there are salt shakers on tables because everybody salts to taste.
Yes,
And so if
absolutely.
you're cooking for multiple people, you don't, you try not to salt it too much. So everybody does what they want.
Yes.
And let's break that myth. Salt does not raise your blood pressure, except for, that one little tiny case I mentioned.
Do you remember people, or were you one of those people? Because I didn't, because I was like a kid, and my mom didn't ever she didn't like limit my food in any kind of way, really. I mean, she just bought non-fat milk and she bought margarine and stuff, but she never said you can't eat that. You know what I'm saying? So
Oh boy.
I remember her trying to limit like my dad's salt. And I remember my grandparents on my mom's side trying to limit their
Well,
salt.
if they had high blood pressure, then the doctor told them
Yeah.
You know, you need to lower your salt. I mean, it's the doctors, it's the myths that are out there, even perpetuated by the doctors. Now, one question we had from one of these viewers here, you know, why don't the doctors know this information? Well, they don't have very much training in nutrition. They have a very, very short class in that. And then the rest of their 4 years or 2 years of medical school and training is not about nutrition. It's about, you know, here's a symptom, here's the medicine that goes with that symptom. I mean, they're into diagnosing, not into nutrition, which you and I both know it's all about nutrition.
Yeah.
You know, food is thy medicine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Charlie says, I've heard that salt helps curb sugar cravings.
Yes.
I have heard this too. I remember trying that trick, like when I was trying to be when I was adapting to keto, especially, I remember trying it.
Did it work for you?
I don't know. I don't know if it worked for me. You know, but putting a little salt on like, you know, on your tongue and letting it kind of dissolve in there. I don't know if it worked for me because I didn't do it more than a couple of times.
Okay.
You know?
I bought this from Redmond. They sell so many different kinds of salt, as you know, and I bought the big rocks.
Yes, I've seen those.
So I have the rock. I don't use it anymore, but when I would get like a sugar craving, because I'm a sugar junkie, I would just suck on the rock for a couple, you know, not even a minute.
Yeah.
And then drink some water to wash it down.
Okay.
And honestly,
Did that work for
it
you?
crossed in my brain. It satisfied my sugar craving. It worked.
That's cool.
Some people drank pickle juice when they were on keto because it's very salty.
Yes.
And that satisfies the craving. So it does work for a lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then taking it back just for a second to the ferments, because we had a question. I don't know the answer, but are real ferments made with or without vinegar? I get some sauerkraut from a farm that doesn't have it. I'm sorry, I'm not a ferment expert. So yeah, I don't know either.
I don't know either. But, you know, vinegar, when I was keto, I did a lot of apple cider vinegar in my salads, and I would drink a little bit of it every morning because I heard that it was magical, which it's not. But I loved vinegar. But what is vinegar? You know, vinegar is from grapes, and it's fermented grape juice. So I got off of that.
I just don't know about that. But Sandra says that she eats a lot of salt and her blood pressure this morning was 109/65 and pulse of 76.
Beautiful.
Cammie says she knows the answer. So she said no vinegar. First she said no vinegar. And then she said just salt and veggies for those fermented foods. So there you go. Cammie would know. If anyone would know, it would be Cammie.
I'll take her word for it then. I don't know much.
They're all chiming in now. Look how helpful they are. Sauerkraut doesn't use vinegar, says Sandra.
All right, it's good to know.
And Nia says, I've always done ferments with no vinegar, just salt and the juices that come out of the veg as a result. And look at them all coming out of the woodworks. No vinegar and lacto fermented foods, just salt. So there you go. I think we have about 5 people that just told you they're meat tea fan. There you go. So you got an answer, even though John and I did not know.
Yeah.
Now I've heard this, but I don't know much about it, but you put charring meat on the grill causes internal AGE stands for advanced glycation end products. I do know that much. This is what I've heard. I've heard people say, well, how do you think we're alive then? Because, you know, back in the day, how do you think they cooked all the food? Like it was all cooked over an open flame,
right?
All the meat, like we'd hunt a mammoth and then cook it over an open flame. So, you know, that's kind of what I heard. It can't really be that much of a problem because humans have been doing that for almost as long as we've been eating meat because we've been doing it as long as we've been cooking meat. So
I agree. And I learned the same thing. I heard the myth that if you eat too many charred foods, you char your steak, you char anything that's advanced glycation, that's what sugar does to your cells, damages end products. And so you shouldn't do that. You should boil and broil and steam. And our ancestors have been eating over the open fire for millions of years. That's how they cooked before. The advanced glycation end products in the body that get generated from sugar, that's AGEs that we need to be aware of. That's when we eat sugar. You get AGEs. It's not from charring something externally and then swallowing it. So I do know that much.
Yeah.
So I had all these questions not too long ago, and either Dr. Berry or Dr. Chafee or Dr. Baker answered these questions. So, I pass this on to our listeners. These are
Yeah.
myths. There's so many myths.
Definitely, I've heard, I think Dr. Barry talk about that one. That just shows you how much Dr. Barry I've watched, because
There you
we
go.
don't do a lot of grilling around here. So I do, like I'll do my cast iron pan, or I'll put something in the oven, or the crock pot or the Instant Pot. Those are like my 4 kind of go-tos. So I don't eat, although Cammie says charred burgers are all she eats, but I don't have a problem with it. I just also don't grill. So I don't mind it, if it's grilled, but I didn't really have that question, or I wasn't worried about it, I guess, because I personally don't usually eat that way. But I am looking forward to having some barbecue in Texas. And
I'm going to have it with you.
yeah, when we're there, that's going to be
I am
delicious.
looking forward to that, and meeting everybody.
And I think you and Nia must have been on the same wavelength. I don't want to get too deep into this, because I know, Nia, this is your topic for tomorrow's.
Tomorrow, we're on tomorrow. Yeah. Are you going to be on tomorrow?
I'm going to try to make it on tomorrow. I had a parent conference, but then they rescheduled. So I think I should be good to get home in time for that. But the carnivore diet is unsustainable. Was the last thing on the list of things that you had said to talk about here. So do you feel that it is? Because I've heard, for multiple reasons, like people think it's unsustainable because it's boring. Like, that's one thing, right? Like, health concerns aside, it's just, how are you just gonna just eat meat and that's it? Right?
Well, Well, it's whether it's keto, ketovore, or carnivore, which is all on the ketogenic spectrum. Sustainability is, can you eat this way and acquire all of your nutrition? Does it satisfy you? And can you eat this way for the rest of your life and be in good health? That's sustainability. And I've been doing this for over 5 years. I've been a carnivore for over 1.5 years now, or approaching 1.5 years. I was ketovore and keto. It's for me, N equals 1. It's very sustainable for me. I am happy with the foods that I eat. I taught myself what bad foods are. Like, I don't look at that Twinkie anymore the way I did before. I don't look at that pizza the way I used to look at it. So I'm not missing that stuff. So to me, unsustainability, I can't have that anymore. Can't have macaroni and cheese. Well, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. It's not hard for me. Now, do I want something sweet? I don't, but my brain does, because I have that addiction to sweet things. So I know, that's another thing about knowledge. I know it's there. So if I touch something sweet, put in my mouth, I'm going to start up that addiction again. So it's very sustainable for me and many thousands of people online. Right. Yeah. So if somebody thinks something's not sustainable, we got to ask them, well, why do you think it's not sustainable? What is it that you want that you can't have? Let's talk about what you think you want that you can't have, and then talk about why that's really bad. See, they just don't know why it's bad for them to have the bread.
Right.
And all the extra carbs and sugar and seed oils. They have to have the knowledge, and I believe it is sustainable. So that's what I'm going to say tomorrow night.
Yeah. When I see people eating processed food, it's the same. If I see donuts now, like the donuts in the staff room, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah,
fellow teacher friend over there. People,
the crullers, the Dunkin', all the different donuts.
Yeah, and it used to tempt me. It used to tempt me. Like, before I was carnivore, I would, sometimes I'd go get one because it just, donuts, I'll just have, just one or whatever. And then sometimes I'd have 2, because one is never enough, right? Never enough. And but anyway, now it's like, it doesn't even tempt me to go down there, because I just look at it in a totally different light. Ever since learning about nutrition, I just see it completely different. And not only that, but like, I see people, like women especially, eating a salad. And I know why they're doing that. I know why, because they're trying to be healthy. They're probably trying to lose weight. And I feel so bad. I feel so sad for them, because that used to be me,
They don't have the knowledge.
They don't have the knowledge.
They're not just eating a piece of crispy water, lettuce. They're all that other stuff that's on that salad. And then that awful salad dressing is, you
the
know?
seed oil that's probably in that dressing.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
know that it's not helping them. It's not serving them. It's probably not even helping with their weight loss goal that they probably have, which is why they're eating that salad. These are
Right.
all the thoughts I have. I
And
don't,
you can lose weight with just salad if you have just vinegar and oil and
yeah,
it's just lettuce and some tomatoes and cucumbers. But where's the nutrition there? You're
right,
losing, it's like the Holocaust diet. You know,
right,
you're starving yourself. And yeah, you'll lose weight, but you're not getting nutrition.
right.
So they
100%.
have to, so then they'll add the protein, you know, they'll have the grilled chicken and the salad and the shrimp and the salad. So it's better, you know,
Mhm.
but they're getting all that fiber.
Yeah. So I think the people that think it's unsustainable, a lot of them haven't tried it
Mhm.
because I accidentally went carnivore. It wasn't a purposeful
Right.
thing. And then I became so like that's when all my inflammation symptoms started to decrease, all the inflammation I didn't even know I had. My
Right.
mental health got so much better and it's like why would I go back? It's more sustainable than keto for me when I had more options because when I was keto, I still was dealing with cravings.
And what a lot of people do is they do what you did and kind of what I did. I did a little differently than you did. And then
Mhm.
we'll test the waters a little bit and we will
Mhm.
go back and try this food
Mhm.
again and then experience like we're more sensitive. We're hypersensitive now to things because our body is so clean that
Mhm.
we have this, you know, you get nauseous or you get diarrhea or you have this achy feeling because you had one food that you used to have. And it's a great lesson to say, whoa, carnivore is the right thing for me. You know, you test yourself. Maybe I can go back and have this thing.
Yeah.
No. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
For me, I don't, I have no plans to do that now. On the other end of the spectrum, I'll say, my mom went keto shortly after I did. She's still keto. She's meat based, under 20 carbs a day keto. She's
Good.
perfectly happy
It's
there.
better.
Her health is improving there. Like, I'm not going to tell her to go carnivore,
She'll see you and other carnivores and on her in
Mhm.
her own time and on her own way. Maybe she'll
Maybe.
just move over a little bit and
I mean,
try it.
you'll get to meet her in Austin because she's
Oh,
coming with
okay.
me. So
Cool.
she'll be there, and she's a teacher too. She's a retired teacher
Oh,
too, John.
wow.
You might like
Okay.
her.
All right.
um, so anyway, but she's gotten so much healthier. She's dropped
That's
weight.
great.
She's
It's
walking more. She's going on international trips. Like, what is there to complain about there? So
We
I just,
get so healthy when we clean up our diet and your
yeah,
health and the way you feel emotionally and physically, it's just like winning the lottery. It's priceless. It really is. And there's your sustainability. I'm not going
yeah.
back.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. This is so true. Morning coffee and donuts and then have a salad for lunch.
there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, because it's gonna balance out. I was bad, so now I'm gonna be good, right? That's the
Or the
logic there.
people that go through fast food with the fries and all the stuff, but I'll have a diet soda.
Diet soda. Oh, that was me. That was 100% me. I admit to that. I'll
Yeah.
have a diet Dr. Pepper with my
Well, back then
sprinkles
I
and sugar,
thought I was doing it right by having the lowest sugar everything. But that's
yes,
all, you know, but I wasn't counting the carbohydrate. I wasn't counting bread, rice, and potatoes at all. I didn't know that turned into sugar.
right.
You know, there's
Yeah,
there's a
that's also
learning curve that a lot of people are down on,
yes.
and it's not being taught by doctors or schools or anything. I mean, schools what do they used to do the pyramid, which is wrong.
Mhm.
Now it's the
Mhm.
my plate, which is wrong. I don't know if
Mhm.
there's a newer version, and it's all wrong.
Yeah. 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 I was just telling John before we went live about the the horrifying
Oh,
breakfast that they're serving the students before testing. So they have these big high stakes, state assessments that we give once a year. And in fifth grade, we have them in English language arts, we have them in math, and we have in science. So it's 3 weeks of testing. And I'm looking around at the percentage of kids because they're making us serve the breakfast because it's at a different time. They don't have anyone to serve it. So they changed the time because they don't want the kids waiting until after they test to eat because normally breakfast is later in the morning. So they made it back to first thing in the morning and then told us we have to serve it. So I'm in there. My point is I'm in there with the students. And even we talked for weeks. We talked for 2 or 3 weeks before testing. You guys, the breakfasts here are full of sugar. Please, during testing, eat some protein at home, but I do teach at a low socioeconomic, school. So a lot of their parents don't have the resources. And so I'm just looking, I mean, probably 90 to 95% of the kids are still taking that breakfast and they're eating that. And today it was a honey bun, a little bag of pineapple, and some cranberries, which I'm pretty sure were sweetened with sugar because I made the kids read the carb content. And
that was the whole breakfast?
That was the whole breakfast. Oh, yes.
Oh,
A
my
honey
God.
bun, pineapple, and cranberries in a bag. I'm sure were sugar sweetened. Like they weren't just straight cranberries. I'm sure they're, because it was 25 or 26, somewhere in that range, grams
Carbs,
of
just
carbs.
for the cranberries.
A little tiny thing of cranberries. But yeah, that was their breakfast. There was
In our school, they got the cranberries and they ended up all over the floor. The cranberries.
Right. So, I almost forgot. So they had their choice of 1% milk or fat-free chocolate milk. Yeah. I forgot that part.
Yeah, they take out the whole milk.
Yeah, right. No whole milk. Not even 2%. 1% milk or fat-free chocolate milk. Yeah.
Let's give them oxalates and sugar
and
carbs and sugar and seed oils.
And
then you have to go test and stay still and
test.
concentrate. Right.
And by the way, my job performance evaluation.
Your evaluation depends on it for being. Well, are you tenured or are you, what is it called?
Oh, no, I'm tenured. We get tenured after 2 years. I've been tenured for a long time. But
do you still have tenure in California?
Yes, we do still have tenure.
Because they dropped it in Florida. I had it, but at a certain timeline, every teacher that was hired on at a certain point, it was tenure didn't exist anymore. It was all performance based.
Got it. You have to
fired any year.
Years. You have to get like certain levels on your evaluation. You have to go through like a beginning teacher program. It's called something else now than when I did it, but you have to do all of that. And then you get tenured, and then, I mean, they can still get rid of you. It just takes a lot more. So I would have to do something pretty egregious.
You'd have to bring in that gun and come in drunk and then still
right. So for them to get rid of me over some test scores, I think I'll be retirement age by then. So I'm not that worried about it anymore.
You get your hands slapped if they're real low, but they need you. They need you.
Yes. Yeah, they do need me. I know.
We won't go there. Or did we hit all of them here? Let me look at the list.
I think we did. Look down the list and see.
We did. We covered them all.
That was an amazing list. Thank you for coming up with that. And we're like right at about an hour. So
perfect time. And your guests had amazing questions and such great feedback. So I want to thank all our guests here.
Yeah.
Very cool. Always enjoy talking to you, and
absolutely.
Well, two teachers in the same room, and we could go on for hours.
My gosh, we speak this thing. It's like we speak shorthand. Like I say one thing, he's like, "Oh yeah," and then he knows.
We're war buddies. That's what somebody said to me once. You've been through war, every possible situation, good and bad. For years and years and years and years. Like the teachers that I've been with. And we meet at each other's house for a gathering. You can't get us. We don't want to leave.
Right.
And the gossip too. You talk about everybody.
So there was a kid today during the test, not in my room, but in my teaching partner's room. During the test in the classroom, we're testing on computers. He pulls out this package of crackers and proceeds to so he's opening. So it's loud because everyone's silent. It's like plastic, right? And then he's thinking he's being sneaky and like hiding them. So I don't know what she did. She didn't tell me what she did. I don't know if she took them. I don't really know. Anyways. And then he asked for water, like to get up and go leave and get water. And she said no. So he started coughing, So she brings him a little cup of water. And then he pulls out this lemonade mix.
Oh my gosh. Wow. And so that's distracting the students around him. And so that will be the test is disqualified. The child's disqualified. Right. Yeah, that's what they would have done, or they would escort him to the media center to finish the test.
She had to tell the principal. It'll be up to the principal if she's got to report a testing impropriety there.
I remember those.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Anyway, funny story. Well, I would like to thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me. I think we're going to do this in June after Hack Your Health. So I'm going to get to meet you in real life. I'm very excited at Hack Your Health in Austin in just like 3 weeks.
And if you're up for it, we want to sing a song together.
Yes, we want to sing a song together. We're going to try It's difficult online, so I think we're gonna have to do some. Well, John is gonna have to do some editing magic, but yeah, it's
I'm
gonna
real
be
good at editing because that's kind of what I do, what I taught the last 17 years.
yes.
But I'm playing with it. I'm having fun putting a song on every Wednesday. I take a song that I have I either buy the karaoke for 99 cents or I
Okay.
have the karaoke to a
Okay.
song I already know. And
Yes.
then I
Yes.
get the lyrics, and then I,
Mhm.
after each line, I boldface an alternate lyric, and I try
Yes.
to make it rhyme and have the same syncopate, the same rhythm, and I'm having fun with it.
So
And
I
so,
wrote lyrics. I've got a song ready to go, but here's my thing. I was wondering how you got around the copyright issue. So is it
well,
that you buy
no,
the
I don't. I
karaoke?
don't, and I can't, and it is copyright protected. And
Okay.
I did a lot of research, and my channel's not monetized. And I
Okay.
put in the description, to everybody, this is copyrighted. My channel is not monetized,
Okay.
and they do put but I don't even have a copyright restriction on my YouTube channel because it says it's not a strike against me. So it's just
Okay.
for fun.
Right.
But I don't think that I could sing this song, say at Hack Your Health on the microphone, where everybody paid money to come in because there's
Right.
money involved. And then
Right. See,
somebody
my
could
channel is monetized. So when we do our song, I think we'll
has
have
to
to
just
just
go
put it
on
on your
mine.
channel.
Yeah,
If your channel isn't monetized,
not
I'm totally
monetized.
happy with that. It's fun. It
Yeah,
reminds me of
it is fun.
we used to do that with teaching. We do a lot
Yeah.
of parodies and stuff. So
So
I'm
if you want,
excited.
we'll pick a song we both know the melody to. That's important that you
Yes.
kind of know it. And
Yeah.
then you'll do a part, I do a part, or you do it and I'll
Yes.
harmonize and I'll play with it and we'll see if it works.
Oh, yeah, that's gonna be fun. So stay tuned for that on John's channel. He's Carnivore Teacher. If you guys don't know, go check out his channel. There's already how many songs do you have up there? I've just seen the ones. You just
Oh,
have
no,
one.
no, I have like 8 on there
I
now.
okay. I need to
All
go
right,
watch
and then
that.
and then I'm trying to do one a week.
Yeah,
So I put one up
cool,
today. There's one up
cool.
today.
Yeah, because
And
it's Wednesday.
right,
Yeah.
it's a Beatles song.
Oh,
And
fun.
yeah. So I try to do all different genres too. Like I'm gonna do a Sinatra big band one. I did a Beatles one. I did a rock one, trying to do
Cool.
different ones, but I have to know the melody or I can't do it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but it's fun.
Okay.
Anyway,
Well,
so yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting you and then doing the next live to talk all about everything we saw and learning who we met and everything from Hack Your
yeah,
Health.
that's gonna be a fun one.
It will be.
So, okay, well, here's a request for you on our way out,
Uh-oh.
John.
Oh,
Request for
all
Carnivore
right. That's going
Bohemian
to be a killer. I know the melody really well. All right. I
Rhapsody.
could probably try it. I don't even know if I can sing Bohemian Rhapsody I have to be able to hit the notes as well.
Right,
All right.
that's important.
So, Freddie Mercury, oh my God, I don't know if I can hit all his notes, but maybe I'll try it. Who put the record? Darth. All right,
Darn,
Darth.
yeah, that's Charlie.
All
Mhm.
right. Stay tuned. I'll try. I'll try Bohemian Rhapsody.
All right, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. This has been great. And I guess we'll catch you around the YouTubes.
Yep.
Bye.
All right. Have a good one.